The Gaels, also known as Goidels, are an ethno-linguistic group indigenous to northwestern Europe. They are associated with the Gaelic languages, a branch of the Celtic languages comprising Irish, Manx and Scottish Gaelic. Other ethnonyms prominently associated with the Gaels historically have included Irish and Scots, but the scope of those nationalities is today more complex. Gaelic language and culture originated in Ireland, extending to Dalriata in southwest Scotland. In the Middle Ages it became dominant throughout Scotland and the Isle of Man also. However, in most areas, the Gaels were gradually anglicised and the Gaelic languages supplanted by English. The modern descendants of the Gaels have spread throughout much of Great Britain and as far as the Americas and Oceania. Ethnonyms. Throughout the centuries, Gaels and Gaelic speakers have been known by a number of names. The most consistent of these have been Gael, Irish and Scot, which continue to be used today, although the latter two have developed more ambiguous meanings. Other terms such as Milesian are not as frequently used. Informally, archetypal forenames such as Tadhg or Domnall are sometimes used for Gaels. Gaels. The word Gaelic is first recorded in print in the English language in the 1770s, replacing the earlier word Gaelic, which is attested as far back as 1596. Gael, defined as a member of the Gaelic race, is first attested in print in 1810. The name ultimately derives from the Old Irish word goidel, spelled officially today as Gael and Gaedheal. In early modern Irish, the words Gaelic and Gael were spelled respectively J-oidheal and J-oidheal. The more antiquarian term goidels came to be used by some due to Edward Lew's work on the relationship between Celtic languages. This term was further popularized in academia by John Rees, the first professor of Celtic at Oxford University, due to his work Celtic Britain. According to the scholar John T. Koch in his Celtic Culture, a historical encyclopedia, the word in the form of gwoidel was borrowed from a primitive Welsh form which became Old Welsh term, roughly meaning forest people, wild men, or later, warriors. It is recorded as a personal name in the Book of Llandaff. This term shared a root with the Old Irish fiad, der, and was partially cognate with fiacuteni, from the Proto-Indo-European *viden jo. This latter word is the origin of Fianna and Fenian. Irish. A common name, passed down to the modern day, is Irish. This existed in the English language during the 13th century in the form of Iris, which derived from the stem of Old English Iras, inhabitant of Ireland, from Old Norse irar. The ultimate origin of this word is thought to be from the Old Irish eriu, which is from Old Celtic of eriu, likely associated with the Proto-Indo-European term *pwer, meaning fertile. Eriu is mentioned as a goddess in the Laborga Bala Erinasa, daughter of Ernmas of the Tuatha Dee Acute Danan. Along with her sisters Banbar and Fodla, she is said to have made a deal with the Milesians to name the island after her. The ancient Greeks, in particular Ptolemy in his 2nd century Geographia, possibly based on earlier sources, located a group known as the Iverni in the southwest of Ireland. This group has been associated with the Erin of Irish tradition by T.F. O'Rahilly and others. The Erin, claiming descent from a Milesian eponymous ancestor named Ailillaran, were the hegemonic power in Ireland prior to the rise of the descendants of Conn of the Hundred Battles and Mugnu date. The Erin included people such as the Corculoigda and Dalriata. Ancient Roman writers such as Caesar, Pliny and Tacitus derived from Hibernia the name Hibernia. Thus the name Hibernian also comes from this root. Scots. The Romans began to use the term Scotta to describe the Gaels in the Latin language from the 4th century onwards. In the context of the times, the Gaels were raiding the west coast of Britain, raiding for hostages and took part in the Great Conspiracy. It is thus conjectured that the term means raider, pirate. Although the Dalriata settled in Argyll in the 6th century, the term Scots did not just apply to them, but to Gaels in general. Examples can be taken from Johannes Scotus Eriugena and other figures from Hiberno-Latin culture and the Schottenkloster founded by Irish Gaels in Germanic lands. It is also worth noting that eponymous characters were created in medieval Irish pseudo-histories. Scotta, described as an Egyptian princess, and her husband Goidel Glass. The Gaels of northern Britain referred to themselves as Alban, each in their own tongue and their realm as the Kingdom of Alba. Germanic groups tended to refer to the Gael as Scotus, and so when Anglo-Saxon influence grew at court with Duncan II, the Latin Rex Scotorum began to be used and the realm was known as Scotland. This process and cultural shift was put into full effect under David I, who let the Normans come to power and furthered the Lowland-Highland divide. Lowland Germanics in Scotland spoke a language called English, which they started to call Scottish in the 16th century, while they in turn began to refer to Scottish Gaelic as us. Population. Kinship groups in traditional Gaelic society. A patrilineal kinship group is referred to as a clan. This signifies a tribal grouping, descended from a common ancestor, much larger than a personal family, which may also consist of various kindreds and septs. Using the Munster-based Eoganacta as an example, members of this clan claim patrilineal descent from Eogan Mór. It is further divided into major kindreds such as the Eoganacht Shazel, Glendamnaish, Ain, Locher Eocutin and Rathland. These kindreds themselves contain septs which have passed down as Irish Gaelic surnames. For example, the Eoganacht Shazel includes O'Callaghan, McCarthy, O'Sullivan and others. The Irish Gaels can be grouped into the following major historical clans: Connachtcha, Dalgcais, Eoganacta, Erin, Lagan and Ulaid. In the Highlands, the various Gaelic-originated clans tended to claim descent from one of the Irish groups, particularly those from Ulster. The Dalriata claimed descent from Sil Conairy, for instance. Some arrivals in the High Middle Ages claimed to be of the Irieni Acutil, as part of their self-justification, taking over power from the Norse Gael MacLeod in the Hebrides. The MacDonalds claimed to be from Clan Collar. For the Irish Gaels, the old clan system did not survive the incorporation of the Gaelic realms into the Kingdom of Ireland and the subsequent flight of the Earls. As a result of the Gaelic revival, there has been renewed interest in Irish genealogy. The Irish government recognised Gaelic chiefs of the name since the 1940s. The Fintan Éireann was founded in 1989 to gather together clan associations. Individual clan associations operate throughout the world and produce journals for their septs. The Highland clans held out until the 18th century Jacobite risings. During the Victorian era, symbolic tartans, crests and badges were retroactively applied to clans. Clan associations built up over time and Náfine Chan Gaedhilach was founded in 2013. Human genetics at the turn of the 21st century. The principles of human genetics and genetic genealogy were applied to the study of populations of Gaelic origin. It was found that the overwhelming majority belonged to haplogroup R1b in their Y chromosome DNA, with the marker RP312-4 being specifically associated with the Gaelic Irish. The two other peoples who recorded higher than 85% for R1b in a 2009 study published in the scientific journal PLOS Biology were the Welsh and the Basques. The development of in-depth studies of DNA sequences known as STRs and SNPs have allowed geneticists to associate subclades with specific Gaelic kindred groupings, vindicating significant elements of Gaelic genealogy, as found in works such as the Líbhán Naren genealogy. Examples can be taken from the Irieni Acutil, who are associated with RM222, and the Dalgcais, who are associated with RL226. With regards to Gaelic genetic genealogy studies, These developments in subclades have aided people in finding their original clan group in the case of a non-paternity event, with family tree DNA having the largest such database at present. Demographics in countries where Gaels lived. Census records documenting population statistics have taken place. The following includes the number of speakers of a Gaelic language. The question of ethnic identity is slightly more complex, but included below are those who identify with Irish or Scottish ethnicity. It should be taken into account that not all will have Gaelic descent, especially in the case of Scotland, due to the nature of the lowlands. It also depends on the self-reported response of the individual, and so is a rough guide rather than an exact science. The two comparatively major Gaelic nations in the modern era are Ireland and Scotland. Communities where the languages are still spoken natively are restricted largely to the west coast of each country, and especially the Hebrides in Scotland. However, a large proportion of the Gaelic-speaking population now lives in the cities of Glasgow and Edinburgh in Scotland, and Donegal, Galway, Cork and Dublin in Ireland. There are about 2,000 Scottish Gaelic speakers in Canada, although many are elderly and concentrated in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton Island. According to the 2000 U.S. Census, there are over 25,000 Irish speakers in the United States, with the majority found in urban areas with large Irish American communities such as Boston, New York City and Chicago. Diaspora historic. Although the concept of European pre-Columbian contact with the Americas remains a controversial field, there are a number of questions raised, which are relevant to the Gaels. Perhaps the most prominent is the story of Brendan the Voyager and his 6th century North Atlantic Imram. Scholars have speculated as to the location of St. Brendan's Isle, with some associating it with North America. In the 1970s, Barry Fell first claimed that some American rock petroglyphs are Gaelic Opham, although many of his claims have been dismissed. David H. Kelly still contends that in some instances the inscriptions are indeed Opham. On a more firmly established historical footing are the examples of the Gaelic diaspora in Europe. As the Roman Empire began to collapse, the Gaels, along with the Anglo-Saxons, were one of the peoples able to take advantage in Great Britain from the 4th century onwards. The Proto-Eoganactri Liathane and the Deircutis Imumen of Dyfed both established colonies in today's Wales. Further to the north, the Erins Dal Riata colonized Argyll. There was a significant Gaelic influence in Northumbria, and the Macangus clan arose to the Pictish kingship by the 8th century. Gaelic Christian missionaries were also active across the Frankish Empire. With the coming of the Viking Age and their slave markets, Gaels were also dispersed in this way across the realms under Viking control. As a legacy, in genetic studies, Icelanders exhibit high levels of Gaelic-derived mDNA. Modern. Since the fall of Gaelic polities, the Gaels have made their way across parts of the world, mainly under the auspices of the British Empire, but to a lesser extent under the Spanish Empire. Core destinations for exiles have been North America and Oceania. As well as this, there has been a mass internal migration within the British Isles from the 19th century, with Gaelic Irish peasantry and Highlanders migrating to the English-speaking industrial cities of London, Dublin, Glasgow, Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Edinburgh and others. Many underwent a linguistic Anglicization, and some eventually merged with Anglo populations.